Hello, Internet. Good morning. Welcome to the Friday morning live stream. I'm Ryan Ingram, and it is Friday morning. So, we're going to talk about real estate for a little bit. Let me go ahead and get everything all set up. Go ahead and post your questions in the chat and the normal disclaimer and gentle reminder that this is not legal advice. And anything that sounds good that I might say here on this live stream, you definitely want to confirm or verify with a real professional expert. I consult with people like attorneys, CPAs, and things of the sort very often, realtors even. So I don't think there's any amount of information or knowledge that you could have that makes reaching out to the professionals unnecessary. Well, before we have too many people sign on and start asking questions, let me go ahead and catch everyone up on our week. So last week, I did a YouTube short for the first time ever, and I liked it a lot. Now, I only did like a quick video of a bowl of keys, but it was a pretty easy format. So I might start uploading some shorts more often, just because of the ease and how informal it is. So, it's kind of designed specifically for you, just kind of holding your phone out in front of you and saying some stuff, which I could do a lot easier than setting up this little studio thing and editing videos and whatnot. So that was fun. But yeah, last week we closed on a package of 11 properties. I guess that wasn't last week. That was 2 weeks ago. We closed on that. No, that was still last week. I just missed last Friday's live stream because I was in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I was very confident that I was going to be able to do the live stream from that cabin that we were in. I took my Ethernet cable and the appropriate adapter, and it just didn't have enough juice to go. So even though I was plugged directly into the internet, so to speak, I was still getting the message that the connection was unstable. So that did not work. But that's okay, because we're back this week, and I've got even more things to catch up on. So we closed on that package of 11 properties. That was pretty exciting. We also purchased, actually did the paperwork on 3 others. So last week was a good week in that we bought 14 properties. Let me pull up that current property holdings and see where we're at. So later today, I'm closing on 3 properties. We're currently at 168. So after today, we will be at 171. That's pretty crazy. We started the year at 80. So by the end of the year, we will have purchased over 100 homes. That's really exciting. It's really exciting, and we're having tons of fun with it. I mean, hey, Will and I have a grand old time. Missed you last Friday, but I think I remember your wife was pregnant. Not quite. Or is that me mixing up old videos I've been watching all years? So she was. Hey, good morning, all inclusive. Congratulations on the closing. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm happy you're on here. Let's see here. Yeah, no, she's not pregnant again yet, but we're definitely going to try to have another one soon. So we currently have 4, and we want like a minimum of 6. So once we hit that, well, obviously it's all in the Lord's hands, right? But we're going to try to get to 6 before we take a more passive approach. But yeah. No, I was at a wedding last week, and I was in a cabin. But hey, I'm here now, and I'm still pretty bummed that it wasn't able to happen, but that's okay. Let's see here. Questions in the chat, if you have them. Happy to answer them. 4 people on this live stream. It's been going for about 6 minutes already. We might break some records. This might be one of the shortest live streams that I've ever done. I did not want to miss today, but it is a packed day for a multitude of reasons, and I'm getting very close. I know a couple of weeks ago I mentioned that I have a new video series that I'm going to do. And later today is going to be the first day that I'm going to be able to like actually announce everything. So I'm pretty excited about that. Definitely be on the lookout for that. And it's gonna be a wild ride. I'm looking forward to sharing that info with everyone. And not any spoilers, but Brittany, you might be onto something. So we'll see. We'll see what this is all about. Really excited. Let's see here. I've got a couple other thoughts. I know there's a certain type of person that watches these live streams, and I'm going to make a couple of videos about this as well. But one of the things I've been thinking about a lot, and I heard it recently. I can't take credit for it. However, I don't know where to give credit to. So maybe a Google search would tell me. But there are 3 C's that I think are really important. So there's 3 C's that I think are important, not only in business, but just in money management in and of itself. So business and money management, the 3 C's. So that is cash flow, so if you are ever going to spend any money on anything, one of the first things that you should ask yourself is, will this generate any income? If not, I would really question your motives as to why you're doing it. Now, I get that everybody has a certain amount of money that they have to spend on some sort of necessities. And most things that you buy that are necessities don't actually generate cash flow, but they sustain you and you generate cash flow. So in a roundabout way, they might, but let's not get too vague with it. So cash flow is the first. So anytime you are spending any money, whether it's yours, whether it's somebody else's, or whether it's one of your investments, one of the first things that you should ask yourself is, does this generate cash flow? If so, how much cash flow does it generate compared to how much money you're putting into it? So if you're talking about real estate, then we're talking about like the cash on cash return. The second thing is collateral. So if you are spending any money, are you going to get any collateral for it? So if you are spending money on real estate, then the collateral is the underlying asset that you're purchasing, whatever the property might be. If you are investing in a business, then the asset is the business. What type of collateral are you getting in exchange for your money? And the third thing is control. Do you have positive control over whatever collateral or whatever cash flow is being generated from that money? So the ideal investment is going to have cash flow, collateral, and control. And I think this is important because if any of those 3 things are missing, then the level of risk goes up, and your ability to do anything about it goes pretty far down. So I would challenge everybody, anytime you are thinking about spending any money, run it through these 3 C's. And if you can answer yes or check all the boxes on these 3 things, then it being something wise to do with your money is pretty high up there. Again, cash flow, collateral, and control. And if you are going to give anyone any money, if you are ever going to lend someone money, then these 3 are also applicable. So if you're going to let somebody borrow some money, you're going to want to know how much cash flow is it going to generate, either for you or for them, preferably both. Both parties should have cash flow, right? Collateral, what are you getting in exchange? So if you're making a loan to someone, is it secured by something? Hopefully, right? Because in the event that they default or your cash flow gets tied up, what are you going to get in return for that loan? And the third, control. Are you able to seize that collateral if it goes awry? If they need help, are you able to step in and help them with whatever it is? Those are just 3 things that I've learned recently, and I would keep that top of mind. As soon as I heard it, I was just like, that's it. That is, in a nutshell, very, very very concise on what I generally look for in any investments. And, I think as far as personal finances go, in addition to these three questions, oh no, I just completely forgot what I was about to say. In addition to, in addition to these three questions, that's how I started the sentence. It was going to have something it was going to be related to being frugal. Man, I had too much sleep. I slept too well to be out of it already this morning. Let's see. I don't know. I'll move on. Hopefully it comes back to me. But yeah, I completely lost my train of thought there. Good morning, Tolu. How many houses can I buy using my own income against my debt to income? Totally dependent on your income and how much you already have. So, I mean, debt to income, I suppose, I don't even know the percentages or the numbers that these banks use to go off of, but I know it's pretty well limited unless you're a very high income earner. If you are using your own debt to income, though, I know the overarching stipulations are 10 properties. So if it's like a Fannie Freddie government-backed loan, then you can only have 10 of those per person. So if you're married, you can have another 10. So that would be a total of 20 properties that you could have as far as like conventional money goes. Once you have been in real estate for 2 years or more, and again, every bank is different. So what I'm saying is just broad strokes true. However, he who has the gold makes the rules, right? So a bank can make their own stipulations. They can override this, and it could not easily not be true at specific banks. But for the most part, until you've been doing real estate for 2 years or more, then you're not able to count the rental income as income to for your like debt to income ratio. So if you've been doing this for less than 10 or 2 years, then any rental property that you have to be able to support or sustain on your own income. But that's only if you're doing like the traditional Fannie Freddie. If you find like a smaller portfolio lender, or if you go into the commercial side of the house, then you can qualify based on DSCR, debt service coverage ratio, which I don't know how to explain that either, but I know that it's a lot more lenient than your debt to income, and it can also factor in the actual rental income. Earl Johnson, good morning, sir. Happy to see you on here. I want to build my real estate portfolio slowly. I don't mind living in a home before renting it. That's fantastic. I mean, I think if your resources are limited and if you've got the time, then that is 100% the way to go. I mean, even if your resources aren't limited, right? Like the house that my wife and I currently live in, I've shared this previously on the channel, but we analyzed it yes, it's going to be fantastic for us to live in right now. But whenever we're ready to move out, like, will it also make a good rental? And yes, it will. So we're really looking forward to turning that into a rental property, because you're right. Over the long term, generally, it doesn't make any sense to sell real estate. So if you can live in it, then if it's owner occupied, then while you are qualifying, while the bank is assessing that loan as an owner occupied loan, generally you're only going to have to put like 3.5% to 5% down. Whereas if it's an investment property, generally you have to put 15 or more percent down. So you're already saving at a minimum a 10% down payment, which, over time, after you do this 3, 4, 5 times, that really adds up. So I would say most places you need to live in the property for 6 to 12 months before you get another one. So if you're trying to build this, I know you said slowly, but depending on your time frame, you could potentially do one every year. So if you're down to move very regularly, then I think this is probably one of the best strategies for you. And I definitely think that given the current interest rates, becoming a collector of mortgages is a very lucrative thing to hoard or collect, right? So on average, your average rate of inflation is like 3.22% per year. So if you can ever borrow money that's fixed, so like mortgages are generally over 30 years, especially if they're owner occupied, those are going to be your lowest interest rates. So right now, if you can borrow money over 30 years at less than 3.22% per year, then in theory, you're actually getting paid to purchase a home because inflation is going to continue to happen on average greater than 3.22% per year, especially given the current climate of the money printer. That's probably my favorite meme I've ever seen. The money printer go burr meme. I've heard speculations that interest this year is between 5 and 7%. Personally, I think that's probably a little bit low given how much money has been printed over this past year or so. However, at 5 to 7%, this year's inflation, you can just do quick mental math, and if you're able to borrow money for a home at 2.75 to 3%, somewhere in that range, you've already made 2 to 4% on your money. So again, this isn't tangible money, but nonetheless, it directly impacts your balance sheet. So something to think about. So my advice to anybody that's less than, let's say, 50, if you're less than 50 and listening to this, I think it is 100% in your best interest to get as many loans as possible. If you are under 30 and you're listening to this, then you are absolutely in your prime. You need to, with the utmost fervency, very, very persistently collect all of the mortgages that you possibly can. The lower you are under 50 years old, the more urgent it becomes that you become a collector of these mortgages. I almost use the word purveyor, but I realize I don't know what it means. What does purveyor mean? A person who sells or deals in particular goods, a purveyor of mortgages. That's not what I mean. I guess you could deal in particular goods, a person or group that spreads or promotes an idea. Nah, a purveyor of traditional Christian values is the example. No, neither of those. That's not what I'm looking for. All right, yeah, that word didn't fit. Awesome list of books, well worth the read. Great show, by the way. Thank you. I appreciate it. Morning. Can I use an FHA loan, purchase a bank-owned property with squatters, leftover tenants still living in the property? Probably not. Probably not. I think the bank would likely balk on that. The market's drying up a lot, but I would say if you've got your heart set on an FHA loan, one of your best bets would be to get a HUD home, which is a HUD home is owned by the same people that issue the FHA loans. So you could probably get an FHA 203K loan, get a HUD home that needs work. And if I'm thinking of this right, the FHA 203K loan allows you to borrow 100% of the purchase price and 100% of the rehab budget. But along with that comes a lot of strings. So you're going to have to figure out how much bureaucracy you're willing to put up with in order to get that loan. If it's a lot, if you're getting a lot of equity based on the property in that particular deal, it's probably something you should look into. And the bureaucracy is probably something that you should put up with. But everybody has their own numbers. Everybody has a price tag. I personally strongly dislike too much paperwork, especially when it gets as invasive as like rehab loans. Some banks are pretty lenient as far as like how you take draws on the rehab budgets. Others are very stringent. If it's lenient, it's probably worthwhile. But I can't imagine that FHA 203K guideline be very lenient. But I have zero experience in dealing in those loans. I've only read about them. Winston Bird, what's up, man? Happy to see you on here. Do you know of a bank that will talk to me without income? I have plenty of cash, just no job yet. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. You've got a rental or two already, anywho. So you're probably closing in. You've probably only got a couple months left before you hit the 2-year mark on one of your rentals. So you should be in a really solid position soon, especially since you're going to be able to start using that rental income here in the next couple of months or quarters. Let me think. My brother calls these non-QM mortgages. I think likely what you're going to want to probably Google if you want to do like some independent research are bank statement loans. And local credit unions are always the ones that generally are going to be most malleable as far as their regulations go and most willing to work with you, especially if they're in your community. They are able to make a lot more exceptions based on relationships, based on your standings with the bank. But given your position, I would say if you're banking with like Chase or another one of these national big box banks, you're probably missing a good opportunity to be helped out tremendously by some local credit unions. So if it's not too much hassle, I would probably recommend that you pick out a local credit union and bank with them. They're likely going to be very, very lenient, especially if you have all of your money and all of your accounts with them. The local credit union that we're with, we are not a big fish. We're still a very, very small fish in this pond. But one thing that they keep saying to me, I've heard this a lot lately, is they'll say, well, because of your relationship with us. And I don't know what that means, but they just started saying that. And I think that's exactly, what we have talked about for a long time. It's just, once you do a certain amount of business with somebody, like once they're comfortable with you, once they have made some smaller loans with you and you perform, they're probably willing to do a lot more. They're probably willing to like grow with you because all banks need to lend their money, right? So it's just a matter of digging and digging and digging until you find somebody that says yes to lending you money. I think there's a guy named Dan Pena. He's a very interesting fella. A little rough around the edges in his delivery, but he says some really good things. And one of the things that my brother and I joke about, because I also, I always speak very highly of my brother. And one of the things that he does that's completely instrumental to our business is just as much as I go out and look for properties, my brother goes out and looks for banks willing to work with us. And Dan Pena, he had this one little bit or segment where he was talking about finding these banks, going in there. And I guess each like commercial bank has what they call like signature loans. And he advocates that people go in there, take a seat, and refuse to leave until you figure out how much that commercial lender is able to give you a signature loan for, and don't leave until you get the money. That's one of his things. So Will and I joke about that often. We haven't done that yet, but we get a good chuckle out of it every time we mention it. Dan Pena advises like going in there all dressed up and like demanding a $50,000 loan, and just he says make it really awkward. He says the more awkward you can make it, the more determined you become, the more awkward you make it for them, the higher the likelihood that they'll do it for you is. So I don't know. We haven't tried it yet, but that might be something to do. Westfield. I don't know anything about Westfield. Westfield Bank, Ohio. Westfield Bank. Trust your personal and business world. Agency banking, private banking. Why Westfield Bank? They look pretty solid. I've never heard of them, so they should be a little bit local. They've only got one routing number, so they can't be too big. These big banks like Chase, Bank of America, they've got different routing numbers based on their locations. Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate you saying all that. I'm a huge fan. Norris Stocks, Lima One Financial does bank statement loans. That's true. Yeah, Lima One. A lot of people. Hey, are you Tolu? No, you're already on. We've got another person. Tolu, you brought friends today. This is fun. Hello. Good morning. Even if you're not related to Tolu, you're very much so welcome, and I appreciate you being on here. Yeah, Lima One. I know a lot of local investors here in Dayton that use Lima One. We've tried a couple of times, but let's see here. What happened last time we reached out to them? Last time we reached out to them, the deal did not work with them because it was the onset. It was March 2020 when we last spoke to them. And for obvious reasons, they decided to hold off on making any more investment property loans. But I have heard that they are back. They're back and running again. But because that time came and went, we found some other avenues that we utilized. We are related. Awesome. Thanks, Tolu. I appreciate it. And because I do not, I'm a huge fan of YouTube. It has caused me to meet a lot of really awesome people. But I do not play like the little algorithm game. So the only way that the channel grows is if you tell your friends about it. So thank you, Tolu, for sharing. And anybody else on the call that feels like this is valuable information, by all means, feel free to share it with your friends. That helps me a lot. Got to keep this channel growing, which, in fact, I think we're over 11,000 subscribers now, which is a really big deal. I started this a little over a year ago. So I think I started it in April of last year. So it's been like a year and 6 months or so. So, yeah. Super thankful for everyone on here and all of the doors and opportunities that YouTube's opened up for me. So a lot of it was unexpected. I started this YouTube channel only because once everything was shut down, all of my client meetings got canceled. So I went from like speaking to a lot of people per day and seeing a lot of people in person to almost nobody. So I really wanted to get out all of this talking energy that I had, which isn't that much, especially compared to my oldest son. But nonetheless, it was still there. Now, what I didn't anticipate was the fact that a lot of time on YouTube for me is just spent talking to myself like this. Yeah, thanks. You're awesome too. All right, let's see here. I got my disclaimer. Any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. Let me see some things I can plug real quick. The Ingram Rental Calculator app. If you're ever in the need of analyzing a rental property, then go ahead and download that app. It's completely free to you. You don't have to put in any of your information. It was really important to me, two things mainly. The first is that I often use two apps. One to do like the full rental analysis to figure out the monthly cash flow, and another just on the fly to do like loan calculations. So I combined those two features into one app. And then the second thing that was very important to me is that it not be invasive whatsoever. So you can save things locally to your phone. So anytime you analyze a property, you can save that. You're able to name it whatever you want to. And it's not invasive. It collects no information from you. You don't need to make an account. It's not going to figure out where in the world you are. There's zero data collection. So I'm proud of that. You've got tons of privacy on there. The only downside to that is since it's not saved on the cloud or anything like that, then in the event you lose your phone, which you shouldn't do, not recommended, all of your calculations are lost as well. But that's okay. And then selfishly, rather than selling ad space on the app, what I did was the bottom banner while you are using the app, it just constantly rolls through things that help me. So my books read list is on there, all the books that I recommend that people read. Well, that's not necessarily true. A list of all of the books that I've ever read. That's more a better summary of what that list is. But if you are serious about like changing your financial position, figuring out how to live like your best life, then you should probably read as many books as you possibly can. And those are the majority of the books that I've read that have allowed me to change my life and get to where I am now. The other thing is PropStream. There's an advertisement for PropStream there. I think the PropStream is probably the coolest software out there for real estate investors. I use it a lot to like analyze deals in the sense of collect information on who the owners are, see if they have any other properties owned. If one is for sale, I like to at least make a soft pitch to buy their other properties as well. And I also use it excessively to run my own comp reports. Comp reports are really important, especially just the way that our business model works. So having positive control over our comps and being able to get our own kind of unbiased opinion of what the property is worth is really important. Thanks. I appreciate it. I did one video that really took off about foreclosures, how to find them and how to buy them. And I think that is probably accounted for a lot of the growth. I would say that drives the most views month over month. But I don't know how much of the growth that has contributed to. But for a while, if you typed in foreclosure, anything about foreclosures into YouTube, that was like the second or third video that popped up. So that's got a decent amount of views. But yeah, the algorithm is something that you can get lost in. And very quickly, you can find yourself talking about things that you know nothing about. And I'm not necessarily a fan of that. Comps are comparable sales. So for residential real estate, 1 to 4 units, the main way that those are given or ascribed a value is by comparable sales in the area. Now, if you're a commercial property, then you can get a valuation on the property based on how much money that property makes. However, on the residential side, single family home to 4 unit, it doesn't matter how much money that property makes. The only thing that matters is what other properties in a similar area with similar square footage have sold for. So what PropStream does is it allows you to find all of the properties in that area that have sold recently and pick the ones that are most similar to your property. You can put a bunch of filters in there. You can figure out, you can put distance in there. You can do like a mile radius, 2 mile radius. I think it automatically puts you at a half-mile radius. And the most important thing when it comes to picking out good comps is square footage. After square footage comes obviously the bedrooms and baths, and then similar condition. So that's what I would say. That's how to pick some good ones. All right. Just to really drive home that last point a little bit more. So for comps, if you've got one property that's rented out for $1,000 per month, and then you have another one that's rented out for $500 per month, but they're in the exact same condition, they're the same size, their value is going to be exactly the same. However, on a commercial property, if you have a property that makes $1,000 per month, and then a property that makes $500 per month, the property that makes $1,000 per month is going to be twice as valuable as the one that makes $500 per month. In a nutshell, probably oversimplified. Yep. Comparable sales. That's what comps are short for. So let's say that you have like the property that Tolu that we analyzed live a couple weeks ago. It was like a cookie cutter house. Like the entire street was just about the same. So let's make an imaginary street and say that there are 10 properties that are absolutely identical. They were built at the same time. They all have the same amount of, they're all in the exact same condition. So let's not factor in deferred maintenance or any of that. Let's say everybody bought their house for $100,000. A year goes by, somebody wants to move, they put it on the market and they sell it for $130,000. Then all of the homes on that street are now worth $130,000 based on the recent sale. And that works in both ways. If somebody decides that they have to move very quickly and they don't really care about their house or their equity in it, and they just have to get out from under it immediately, and they sell it for $70,000, well, unfortunately, all of those homes are now worth $70,000 until somebody else puts their house on the market and it sells for higher. So that's generally how it works. Probably really oversimplified as well, but that's okay because we're learning together. All right. Let's see if I have any missed calls. Not quite yet. I'm gonna go 15 more minutes. That puts us right at about 8:50 Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, no problem. All right. So with that in mind, that we're only going to be doing this for like 15 more minutes, everybody that has questions, go ahead and post them in the chat, and we'll get started. This is so when I was out of town last week in Gatlinburg, the cabin had Wi-Fi, albeit slow, but I was able to kind of have service on my phone while I was at the cabin, which wasn't very often. But if I was anywhere other than the cabin, I did not have service. So I feel like I worked about half of a week last week, and then I got back Wednesday of this week. So I have only had about 2 working days, really. And I'm just feeling very behind. I got a lot to do in a very short amount of time. Not that that's your problem at all, but just explaining why I'm going to call it quits a little early today. So, any questions that anybody has, go ahead and post those in the chat, and I'll get those answered. Other than that, until those come in, let me figure out something else I can ramble about for a little bit. I went over my little 3 C's. I've encouraged everybody to become a collector of mortgages. I think now that I have over 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, I qualify to have that little merch shelf thing. I need to get that set up. I would love to have a couple coffee mugs that say collector of mortgages. I think that's really hilarious. Maybe even some shirts. I just don't wear shirts that say stuff like that. I don't think I wear shirts that say anything. Law enforcement, for those of you that don't know, I was in law enforcement for quite some time. And any time spent in law enforcement, like law enforcement is definitely one of those careers. I get that some people do it for like 20 or 30 years and more power to them, but I don't think that's probably very healthy for anyone in their mentality. But it's left me with a few quirks, and one of them is wearing things that say stuff on them. So I like to not. I like to be very nondescript. I don't want my shirts to say anything. I don't want my car to say anything. I don't want you to be able to glean any information about who I am based on like what I'm wearing or what I'm driving. Like to be really low key. Have a lot of questions, but driving to work, so can't quite type. Thank you so much for all the info you share here. Well, congratulations on typing that safely. Ooh. Yeah. Hey, happy to answer any questions. How do I collect rents? We use a software called Appfolio, 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 and they're okay. They're okay. I think if I were to do it over again, I would use another program called Rent Manager. Rent Manager, spelled appropriately. Appfolio is good. They've got like a 50 property minimum. So if you have fewer than 50 properties, Appfolio is probably not a solution for you. Rent Manager, I'm not sure what their minimum is. I know people that ran into that minimum issue. I know some people use Buildium, other people use like apartments.com. And there's a few other ones. The thing that makes me like Rent Manager more than Appfolio is Rent Manager seems to be a little bit more of like a open source type deal. Like their API keys are just a little bit more, I guess, accessible. So, they integrate. It seems to be they integrate a lot easier with other softwares. Rent Manager also has some cool features where, like, if you want to mail someone a letter via the United States Postal Service, you can do that from Rent Manager with just a click of a button. A third party will print it, put it in an envelope, and send it out on your behalf. I think that's really cool. Rent Manager also has like a ringless voicemail feature where you can record a message and then push it out to all your residents. And it's a ringless voicemail, so it doesn't allow them to pick up the phone. It just drops a voicemail. There's also like mass text messaging features, and there's one other really cool one. Your voicemails. It also, no, I said that. Ringless voicemail. Oh, it also allows, it integrates with your phone system so that when you are calling or when people call you, it records it and attaches it to their file. I think that's largely unnecessary, but it's still a very cool feature. I'm considering buying property out of state due to the high cost of property where I live. I think that's a good idea. How do I identify a property or a real estate agent that will guide me properly during the process? A bunch of trial and error. I don't think there's a very good way to do it. It really depends on. I've got someone knocking at my door, and speaking of nondescript, this office is very nondescript. Nobody should be knocking on my door. And we're close to time, so I'm going to answer these two questions and then call it a day. A bunch of trial and error. I would say giving it a lot of interviewing. I would interview as many people. I would find local investors that are investing in the market and go to a few investor meetups in that area, and then try to get some recommendations from investors that have a similar size portfolio that you're looking to build. That's probably the easiest and best shot. Do you and your brother have a goal on when and how many properties you want to buy or when to stop? Yes and no, right? So we've got our ideas of how we want things to look. Whether that happens is it even in the cards? Up to higher powers on that one. But we're going to do our best. We're going to keep on going and keep on going and keep on going. And, I think the main thing that's most important to us is that while we're on our way to wherever it is that we're headed, we help as many people as we can do similar things to us. So I think our main overarching goal is all family related, right? So we're never going to grow the business if that is at the expense of our family. We're doing this because we want our family to be first. We want to be able to have the freedom to spend tons of times with all of our kids. And hopefully our kids will one day want to come alongside of us in the business. But if they don't, that's okay. And wherever they want to kind of put their energy and focus, we're going to do our best to use the resources on hand to help them out. In addition, we want all the people that work with us. So we have 3 full-time guys now, and their families are important to us as well. We want to create like a work environment that allows them to spend a lot of time with their family, take care of their family, and help them reach their goals as well. And as far as our properties go, we want to provide above average housing with above average support so that people can provide, really nice, affordable homes for their families. So we're going to grow as much as we can without sacrificing any of those. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, thank you all. And next Friday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard, right here. And in the meantime, check out the Reddit Talk Real Estate. And if you have any questions that we weren't able to get to today, then go ahead and post them there, and we'll get them answered there. And let me post the link up there. Let's see here. There we go. Reddit.com/r/talk real estate. All right. I will talk to you all next week. Have a good one.